Hi, aloha, and welcome to the That's Not Normal podcast, where the topics we cover are normal to us, but not the outside world. That being said, my name is Jennifer O'Neil.
And I'm Michelle Schneider, giving you a friendly reminder that if you like today's topic, to please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes. Today we wanted to talk about channeling. We got on a discussion about channeling, how it varies, the different types of channeling, all the things. And it's a very interesting topic that we were talking about because I don't feel like there's a lot of talk about channeling. I really don't. It's something that I've done again since the beginning of my career. I've been channeling all different ways, whether it's trance channeling, consciousness channeling, all the channelings.
But like automatic writing would be another form
Yes,
of,
there's a lot of forms of channeling.
and I consider myself, I've been channeling all my year
Mhm.
because of my art. Like when I design something, I will see the images in my head first, and then I'm kind of weeding through my head of like, that one's cool, and then I'll translate it to the page. So it's like I've never felt like I'm actually designing. It always felt like
Right.
they're showing me the stuff.
Well, and I feel like this topic's really important, actually so important that I'm getting ready to do a class on this in March and expand upon the knowledge in there and teach people how to work with the channeling. But I do feel like it's really important because I feel like it's the redheaded stepchild of all the clairs. People talk about clairaudience, clairvoyance, all the clairs, and they don't talk about channeling as much. I think for several reasons. I don't think that people are well versed in what channeling is, truthfully, even in the metaphysical industry. I don't think it's explored very much. I think that people view themselves more as a psychic or a medium or whatever, and they don't really view themselves as a channeler. I think that with people who do view themselves as a channeler, there's a lot of misconceptions, even with some of the channelers that are out there. I, again, have a lot of knowledge in this because I've been a strong channeler. This is one of my strongest suits since the beginning of my career, which is like a bazillion years ago, 30 some years ago. When I started, honest to God, I think I found one book on channeling, one in the entire, and this was when books were a big deal. Like there was Barnes and Nobles and all the things everywhere. And the metaphysical section was very huge. I was trained by another channeler who is now passed. She was really well-known channeler, and I was trained by her as well. So I polished my technique for a very long time. And I think that people have a misconception of what channeling is or how to channel. So I think that we should talk about that because me and you have talked about that
Yes.
because you follow a lot of channelers that change their demeanor,
Hmm.
their voice, and that's always kind of been like a I don't know what I would call it, not
It's
a sword.
weird. It's not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. That's not normal. Okay, that's one thing that's not normal in my world. Um, because when I started channeling a long time ago, I learned so much about it and I did so much channeling, it was ridiculous. And when I developed to a certain level, you do not have to shift your demeanor even when you allow a spirit to come in and talk through you. They can absolutely, I mean, not your demeanor, that's the wrong word, because your demeanor will typically
I
shift.
mean, it's usually voice,
It's voice.
yeah,
It's I
it's
didn't mean demeanor, I meant voice. Or
mannerisms.
well, like I said, a lot of times when you're heavily channeling, like you're really strongly channeling, even if you're conscious channeling, the spirit that you're channeling will shift your demeanor somewhat. So you can, other people who know you well, they can tell your demeanor shifts. Happens to me all the time. A lot of my students, or if I'm doing a workshop and I start really getting into a heavy consciousness channeling, they'll be like, oh, there she's doing it again, because they'll start noticing the movements and mannerisms and my demeanor shifts.
Yeah.
What doesn't need to shift, which people forget, is your voice doesn't need to shift. And I think that people who are watching channelers want to see a voice change because they feel like, oh, it's like tarot cards or oracle cards. If there's a voice change, they're like, oh, yep, there's definitely a spirit in there. Now they're doing something different. But
Yeah.
what people don't realize is that spirit is still utilizing your vocal cords and your body. So they should be using your voice appropriately, or how would I say, naturally. They should be naturally using your voice anyways, because this is something you physically developed. You physically have developed your vocal style. And even though that they come into body, while they your demeanors might shift, your mannerisms might shift, the way you stand, the way you use your hand movements, that's very normal because they're going to have their own mannerisms. But when they're working with your physical vocal, your voice box, your vocal cords, they're going to be utilizing your vocal cords and how you've trained your physical body to talk. And so it's actually more normal for you to be consciously translating and allowing the spirit to come through with your same tone of voice, because they're using your vessel.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that gets me with the people who trans channel or consciousness channel in a way that they start altering the voice. So I find that very interesting. Now, there you will notice, to me, those are channelers that, this is just my personal opinion. So those are channelers that just haven't trained in channeling as long. So, what I mean is, they haven't perfected their craft to the point where they understand that their body's a vessel and that they're allowing spirit to use their own their own voice, or their, the vessel of the body. That comes with training, though, because it is common for those who start to channel to almost try to alter, like spirit wants to use a sort of voice, and then somehow they're engaging with spirit to where they alter their voice a little bit. That is normal for early stage channeling. That doesn't have to be the way it is. And how I would explain that to people, it's almost like you're taking on a characteristic, like if you were doing a character in a show, when
Yeah,
it's
like, if you were I mean, just think about if you all of a sudden switched accents to
yes.
a different, dialect or a language, that's
So
a completely, that's a shift.
yes. And so it's like you're allowing a personality trait to come through that can alter you. You start maybe talking with an accent, maybe you talk in a higher voice, a lower voice, because maybe that's the characteristic of the spirit that you're allowing through. My point being, that doesn't have to be, though. They absolutely can use your voice and your tone. And so I just find that interesting. So when people start channeling, typically they take on the whole characteristic and they switch their voice and the way that they're doing things. And then as those same people channel for years and years and years, their voice gets more normalized. They start allowing spirit to use their voice box the way that the voice box naturally works. And you wouldn't be able to tell so much as far as maybe voice goes, but you would in the verbiage that they use, because
Mhm.
they typically will talk very differently. When I'm channeling, the verbiage that's used is very different than my personal vocabulary. The mannerisms, your mannerisms you will definitely notice that you're going to be using different mannerisms, and those things will still stay kind of steadfast to the end. But you don't have to use a higher pitched voice or things like that nature. Now, it doesn't mean that those people are not getting accurate information. I think that as long as you're training and allowing the information, the message to come through, the accuracy is still there. For me, it's just
It's a
feels
personal thing, I feel like, for
it is
you,
a
'cause
personal thing. It is. And I'll tell you why. because when I first started channeling years and years ago, like I keep thinking back and it just seems so long ago. And so when I first started channeling, I one of the things when I started reading people and I was doing the mediumship and all that, I didn't feel aligned with the woo woo aspect of all the things. I wanted to be able to develop my abilities, but still feel like me, feel like normalized, feel like I could use my own skills, but still be me, be Jennifer, be a mom, be a wife. I didn't have to take on the persona of somebody else. And I didn't align with those who had to do 80 different systems to read cards, tarot cards. They had to meditate. They had to not eat meat. They had to not drink soda. They had to drink so much water. Then they had to clear their energy. They had to be in a very peaceful space. It was weird to me.
Yeah,
It's
I almost wonder, it's like telling yourself that story that this is what I need to do, and it's like, yeah, if it works, then you start to really believe and you give that whole belief system into like, I have to do all XYZ when you don't. It's just your belief system that you're now creating that's like forcing. Does that even
well,
make
it's
any sense?
not just your belief system, it's your training.
Yeah.
So it starts to become a crutch. And
Yes.
that's definitely what I noticed, and I would watch. So when I first came out in the industry, there was many people that did things like that. They all had these systems and they all had to prepare, and I was so confused because I was like, I don't know why these people have to so heavily prepare because I get the psychic information regardless of if I'm sitting in a restaurant and see somebody across from me and have a psychic hit, or I'm at a metaphysical fair and I'm doing a reading for these people. Like there's no preparation. It's just who I am. It's how I live. And so I just find that aspect very interesting. So a lot of the things with channeling or receiving information depends upon your training. And when you start to train yourself that there has to be such a systematic approach to it, I have to take on the whole demeanor when I'm channeling. I need to switch my voice. I need to become their character. I need to allow that character to come through. I need to be able to not eat meat, spin in a circle 3 times, say a prayer, and then do cards. Like, it's weird to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now you're right, it becomes a part of their belief system, but it was never something I aligned with. I think that that's why I get so many people that train under me is because I'm not a woo-woo type person. Now, don't get me wrong. I have friends that are very woo-woo-ish. I absolutely think that there are some fantastic people out there that that's their jam, that they are aligned with that, they feel good about it, and it feels great to them, and that's wonderful. It just never aligned with me and my personal the way I felt about it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to just develop it and have it be a part of my life, but have it really be a part of me. I do feel it would have separated and hindered my advancement if I would have done that. I
Well, I
think
wonder because it's like, I feel like now I don't think there's like a right or a wrong way to channel. If you're getting information, you're getting information. And I tend to
correct,
look
correct.
past it really quickly of like, yeah, it's strange, but whatever. But what I was going to say is that I wonder if you went down that road where you're like shifting who you are and then you sort of become known for this like different presence that you're giving,
Mhm.
that you can't ever really turn away from that once you're,
No, however, if you listen to some of Abraham Hicks' earlier stuff versus the later stuff,
yeah.
you will notice an advancement and development there. In the very early stuff, she went into a lot more of a deep breathing type of situation, and her voice was different. She used a different tone of voice, and then as she channeled over the years, she just began using her own voice and started working with that naturally. And to tell you the truth, I think it's easier. I think it flows better than really having to embrace their
Yeah.
characteristics. It allows the channeling to just really flow through you and move through. There's no hindrances whatsoever. The other person, and I've seen her channel, she's since passed, but Sylvia Brown, she used to channel Francine all the time. and she didn't change her voice. If any of those who remember her, I don't remember even if she changed her voice early on. I'm not sure that they were recording when she first started doing it, but as she continued to develop, and I've seen her in person channeling, and her demeanor even just barely shifted. Like she got it down to where their mannerisms were really similar. So unless that she was telling you she was bringing Francine in, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't be aware. It wasn't a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where a lot of people get with me too. I will i will heat up, I will start my ears will become red, my neck and everything. And I know when I'm channeling that flow of energy, I can feel the spirit, I can feel the council, I can feel whoever's coming through, I can feel them move into body. And again, like I said, my verbiage will switch a little bit. But there'd be a lot of people that would have no idea, and they want that extreme. It's the
Yeah.
same thing I feel like too, though, when people, like I said, they want a tarot reader or an oracle card reader versus a psychic reading. I've literally had people ask me, well, do you do tarot or oracle? And I'm like, well, I mean, I can, but I just get it psychically. So like and at first I was so puzzled because I'm like, well, that's moving me backwards in my opinion.
It's like
Because
seeing is believing. If there's a
right.
physical aspect to it, people, for whatever
Oh,
reason, may trust
100%,
it more.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It Cards make it feel validated.
Yeah.
If you're seeing things and then the cards validate, they can physically see something, it helps to people to overcome the hurdle. But if you give somebody psychic information, they're still going, well, where's she getting that from, or where's he getting that from, and how do I know that that's accurate? If we have a visual pendulum, even scrying, where we're using just fire or crystal ball or something, there's a physical component to what that you're using, that they're going, oh, they're definitely getting this through something physical.
Yeah.
And those are all, again, channeling methods as well. There's a lot of channeling methods. I think that people channel a lot, and that also brings me to the topic that I find very interesting, that I think we talked about recently, which is when I was younger. I was actually talking to a colleague about this. When I was younger and was beginning to develop, again, that veil was a lot thicker. So, our ability to get through the veil to have the spirit conversation was just, it took a lot more effort on our part, a lot more training. And while the frequency of the earth and the spiritual realm has started to line up more closely linked in frequency, there's not such a gap there, and the veil has thinned. So many more people can naturally channel than they did when I was younger. When I was younger, there was not a lot of us. Uh, Now there's so many people that have the ability to channel. And we're talking, you channel in so many ways. Artists channel, musicians channel, people who write books channel. Like, you're moving information through the body. It's not all like a council or a spirit. You're channeling creative energy, you're channeling you know spirit realm information. It's not always a spirit, you're not always just working with a spirit.
Yeah.
And I think that people also don't get that aspect, that they always think it has to be a high frequency spirit or counsel. You can also be just channeling spiritual information and from the spirit realm and co-creating that information um, through the body, there, through painting, through music or verbiage of some sort.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Totally. And I
Yeah.
think, just to give your class a little plug, I think, if people have seen all the crazy channelers out there, it's like they need to know that that's not necessarily what they're going to be getting in this course. And so, um, that but they're but everybody's probably gonna have a different style too.
Right. Well, that's the thing is you may be a channeler and not realize you're a channeler because you might be expecting that if you were, you would be talking differently or
Yeah,
really shifting your demeanor, really taking on a different character. And so I think that that's also important because there are a lot of people now who channel information and channel counsel information and channel higher frequency, higher consciousness stuff. There's so many receiving information that way, but yet they don't realize that that's what they're doing because they're expecting this whole deal to happen with the demeanor and all that. So I think that that can be very helpful and help you really pull in a lot of the information by just simply showing you how you are, what your technique is. You know, when I work with people in my classes, I really help them to develop their own unique technique that works for them. Everybody has a different technique. So it's very important to be able to customize your teaching in the way that we are pulling the best out of you as the student. We are working with your strong skill sets and we are teaching you how to build upon your personal skill sets because everybody's is different. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who could benefit from learning about channeling and understanding it because I would say more people channel than are not. That it's really interesting. I really would say that. I would say that more people channel than think that they than are not channeling. The majority of the population,
Which would
whether
be a
or
good thing to call out too, because it's like if somebody's on the fence
not.
of like, "Oh, should I take this class or not?" Because they might identify, "Oh, I'm not a channeler. That's not me." But it's like, well, you probably are channeling, and you
Right.
just aren't realizing it.
Well, and even whether you take the class or don't take the class, just understanding that about yourself, you know,
Yeah,
and learning and realizing that a large majority of the population channels. They channel frequency, they channel energy. They just think it's their own thoughts, their own imagination, their own creativity, their own like all the things. However, I do know that a lot of I we have musicians that run in my family and artists. And I do know just from speaking with a lot of musicians and artists, they do know and feel that they're connecting with their artistry or their music on a much deeper soul level. So they know they can feel it running through their body. They get verbiage for songs that way. They feel the song come to them, and they're very open to the coming to them process. And so when you allow information to come through you, it kind of takes the pressure off too. It takes the
totally.
yeah,
I know
it
that from design, like, the times where I feel like the most creative and I just
mhm,
get so into it and you lose track of time and you're like, "This is
yeah,
so fun." Like, that is just the best, but, like, when you and it just makes everything so much easier, but if I'm consciously trying to, like, create
force
something and
it.
I'm
Yeah.
forcing it, I'm like,
Mhm.
it's horrible, and I don't get good results that way
Yeah,
either.
exactly. And so that's where that can be helpful too, is learning how to go away from the forcing it aspect, how you get into naturally tuning in again, because there's different techniques for that. There's ways that you got to pull back. You might have to ground yourself. You may have to, you know, leave for a minute. You may have to go outside. So there's different techniques to bring that ability back in and then connect in with yourself again. It doesn't involve not eating meat, spinning in circles, and doing like a hour and a half meditation. However, that's not what it involves. It involves other things. So it's learning about the technique, but it is a thing that me and you always talk about because you listen to these people, and I'm always like, oh, that's
I
so like
just want the information. I'm like,
yes.
I know
And
that they're
so
here.
it's but still a lot of them have great information. It's just getting past that aspect of and just really receiving the information. However, I do think a lot of people like the characteristic stuff. I think that that was what draws people in. They feel
Yeah,
like again it's very physical. Everybody wants physical proof of everything.
yeah.
Everything. It's like Well, if you're going to be channeling, they want physical proof. So that's going to have to be in your demeanor and your voice. If you're doing psychic stuff, they want physical proof. So that's going to be via ruins. It's going to be pendulum. It's going to be tarot cards, unless that they just trust you and then things happen. And then, oh, that's physical proof. And then they come back and go, okay, yeah, I believe you. Everybody wants something physical. If you're doing mediumship, they want you to know something that's very physical. So that's again how I train students with the mediumship stuff. They're looking for validation. So you have to train your students to um, f- find or reach or ask your spirit that you're dealing with for something that can validate that in the physical realm. Sometimes it's a belt buckle, sometimes it's a photo, sometimes it's a flower, a color of dress, a place that they used to frequent. That again makes the mediumship valid because now you've validated it in the physical realm. So everybody wants it to be validated physically. Just, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just understand if you're one of those people and you're kind of needing that aspect, but also know if you're a reader and you are giving information that mostly your clients are going to want something validated in the physical realm. And
Yeah.
I do think that that's why they gear more towards that way. For me, I'm a normalizer. I mean, like, I just want to be me.
Yeah.
And now that's such a weird thing because I am a normalizer, but then nobody looks at me as normal. I want it to be normal in my world. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody's like, oh, yep, the psychic gen thing. Yeah. So, I mean, they don't view me as normal. But in my world, I feel normal. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not feeling normal if I'm doing weird things. Is that is weird to me. I don't
What's weird?
yeah, just the having those systems that you have to have it a certain way or, changing your whole characteristic
I
for
think this is a sparks an interesting question because I feel like we're kind of at this point in time where it's we call it woo woo because it's different, it's not normal, and like I feel like we're shifting more into like people accepting it, people understanding it, having a better grasp on it, and the more that it becomes normalized, do you think some of that stuff will fall away to the point where it's like we don't need to do you know what I'm saying?
You mean the part about like the woo woo part? Do I think that that will shift away?
Well, just like, even just people shifting their voices or their demeanor or anything like that.
No,
Just the
I
the
don't think
need
that
for
that'll ever.
physical proof. Do you think
No,
that will
no,
change?
I don't think any of that will ever change. Because there's different types of people, and some people like to be very in character. I mean, that's not a bad thing at all. It's just, I think that there's going to always, and hopefully there will always be people who like to have different, play different characters and parts because otherwise movies would go away and that sort of thing. I think that some people gravitate towards um their character of their spirit, I guess I would say. And I don't I it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
It overrides the information for me that I'm getting, probably because I'm in the industry. But I think that other people enjoy that. And so I kind of hope it doesn't go away. So like I'm kind of on both sides of the fence here. For
yeah,
me, it's not my jam, but I think that any way that you can get spiritual information to somebody who aligns with that is a good thing. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter as long as it is enhancing your life and you feel better, more connected, more positive, more hopeful. It drives you to want to learn more, develop your abilities. I'm more power to you. I think that that is amazing. And there needs to be a lot of different things
yeah,
because there's a lot of different personalities. It's the same goes with like when we get into like churches and stuff. People ask me about that a lot. First of all, they are like, um, you know, their first question is, "Oh my God, do you believe in God?" Like, and I'm thinking that is such a strange question to me because the relationships that us in the metaphysical industry have with God is like ridiculously tight. We have this very strong relationship with God. That's where we
yeah,
receive information. That's who we love to connect with, and so that's kind of silly.
I think
Um,
it's people's definition of God that gets I mean, they're not
Dude,
the same. I think God is everything,
right.
Like, it's not a man
Well,
in the
then,
sky
yeah,
who's
that gets
judging
into a
you.
whole 'nother
Yeah.
conversation. But then the next thing is, what do you think about religion and church? I have one very simple rule with that, is as long as it enhances your life, that's it. If it's positive and enhances your life, that should be the only rule that you follow. If it feels good and enhances things, that's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel good, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
That's just a real simple rule to follow.
Yeah.
Is and I think that that's a good rule of thumb with all spirituality stuff, whether it be churches, whether it be metaphysical, whether it be this channeler or that channeler, whether it be this psychic or that tarot reader. These things should feel good to you. They should enhance your life in some way. You should feel empowered to want to learn more. You should feel empowered to be like, "Oh, there's more. There's more to life. There's I want to know more. This really makes me curious. I would like to expand upon the knowledge that I have." As long as that's happening, it's all good, but there is always the light in the dark. You always have the people coming to you going, well, this person said that I have a curse, or like I don't know, our family's been cursed and pay them money. And I mean, that's just
Yeah, any kind of manipulation like that,
yeah.
that's when the red flags
Or,
go up and you need to start asking questions.
right. Or then they want to go like, they leave and don't feel good with reading. I mean, if you have a good reader, you should always be left feeling positive. There's always a way to read a positive situation, even into things that you see might be a bumpy road. Always. If you are developed properly as a reader, your first rule should be able to go past the bump and look for the highlight. Where's the highlight reel? So you can mention the bump, say you might want to watch for this, but then you move past and give them something to reach for past that. So they should always leaving you feel better than when you came. That's the whole point of all of us as healers. We're all healers. You should feel better after being in touch or communicating with a healer than you did before you came to them. Our only job as healers, whether that be channelers, psychics, and tarot readers, is to help raise the vibration of the people around us. That is purely our only job. And whether that be through a psychic reading, a channeling session, a podcast, whatever, that is our only job.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think that, do you have any questions?
I don't think so, but if anybody does have questions, they should leave those in the comments.
Yes, they should. All right. And so hopefully you enjoyed the That's Not Normal podcast. I'd love to hear if you're liking our new direction. So if you're enjoying the new direction we're taking with this, we will expand on other things. We're going to get into all kinds of topics, alien topics, and
Mm.
other dimensional topics and astral stuff. So
And if you
um,
have topics, though, that
yes,
you want us to explore,
that's
you
true.
can also leave those in the
Also post those below. But yeah, let us know if you like the new direction. All right. Until next time, you want to
Yeah, if
remind
you
everybody?
enjoyed today's content, just please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes. All right. Have the most amazing day. Aloha. Bye.
Bye.